So you're thinking about moving out here to St. George, Utah, but you're wondering, is it only St. George? Like, what is surrounding St. George? What are the areas that people choose to live in outside of St. George? So in this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 areas outside of St. George. So let's get started. Okay, so to help you see what the best places to live outside of St. George, because we're all familiar with this little city called St. George, but there's definitely some places outside of it. So to help us decide this, we've gone to niche.com, the 2023 best places to live in Washington County. And they give, interesting how St. George is number 3, and they give Washington number 1. So let's click on Washington. We can describe a little bit what Washington is like. But Washington, it's right next to St. George. And Sean and I, if you've ever watched this channel, it's very similar to St. George. Like some of the other cities that we're going to talk about, they definitely have their own flavor, whereas Washington kind of bleeds into St. George. St. George is the most populated city in Washington County. Washington is the second most populated city. Like, you don't really know, if you're in St. George or Washington, depending on where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell how many times it's blended. I mean, even their major shopping corridor.
Yeah.
It blends into it. It even changes the names from from Red Cliffs Drive to Telegraph Road.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't appear any different. And so city name of street doesn't seem to change names.
There's Telegraph right there.
Yeah. Which
is basically just Red Cliffs.
Yeah.
If you're in St. George.
Yeah, and then along this major corridor, you're gonna have your Walmart, your Costco, your Best Buy, your Home Depot, like that. Your big box stores are all along this corridor here.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things that just to be aware of. It's interesting.
Yeah, and if you've ever watched our channel, I mean, we've done a decent amount of tours in areas around Washington. We've definitely done a lot in what is known as the Washington Fields area, down here. Our business partner Sue and I, we've done tours of Washington Fields. Sean and I have done tours of Washington Fields. So yeah.
And before we continue, my name is Sean Dazad.
And I'm Courtney Dazad, and we are licensed real estate agents here in the state of Utah.
So if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love St. George. I love the Red Rocks. I love the energy vorti. And so I can't wait to move out there now, but I'm maybe not even in the States. So what can I do? And I totally get that. That's why you want to reach out to us so we can have that call. We can find out exactly what you're looking for and find that perfect property for you. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone. And remember, we do work with a team that has over 40 years of experience here in St. George, Utah. We absolutely love our team. So call or text us if you are thinking about moving out here to St. George. Yeah, it's definitely very similar to St. George.
Yeah, and the prices are all over the place.
Yeah.
Even next door to each other, prices differ. So, for instance, Washington Fields, which is there's a lot of new construction and newer to new.
Yeah.
And so basically, what you'll find here is that homes that are priced, let's say, about $500,000. Literally next door, they're going for about over $5 million because again, it's especially in Washington Fields, it's less so about the location specifically and more so about what was done to that property. Like how big is that home? And obviously the $5 million home is a mansion. It's huge. I mean, it's over 12,000 square feet or whatever. And then the $500,000 property is, about more like 1,500 square feet. So it varies dramatically. And that, so depending on what you're looking for, you want to reach out to us so we can have that conversation to kind of really point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and we actually have done a tour of a home in Washington Fields that I think it was $4.5 million. So I'll link to that at the end. And if you want to check it out, you can check out the inside of it. And then we can go back. Okay, so number 2, according to niche.com, is Santa Clara. So Santa Clara is on the other side of St. George, and now we said that Washington and St. George kind of blend. You can't really tell the difference. Santa Clara, you can definitely tell the difference.
Definitely tell the difference. It has a totally different feel, very mature. It actually has lots of trees, so it's very green.
Yes.
And again, it has its own river, the Santa Clara River's there.
Right here. Yeah.
It's got, it has some older construction and some new construction as well.
Yeah.
But just again, you have some estate type homes. I mean, some really big mansions actually.
Yeah.
But again, it's all over the place. I mean, it's really cool. It's just a very different feel. Kind of harkens back to, I don't know, the Midwest almost. It's kind of a totally different feel than St. George itself.
Yeah, so our business partner, Sue, Santa Clara is actually her favorite city. She absolutely loves Santa Clara.
I can definitely see why.
Yeah, and it has an old town charm to it. Definitely historic feel. I mean, I know originally, before they blasted, the 15 through St. George, there's the 15, you would this is the old Highway 91, and there was a lot of fruit growers through here, and so they've kind of kept that up. You can still find some historic fruit stands and stuff. But yeah, you can take, so this line right here, this is the old Highway 91. It used to be how you would get around the gorge. Now they just blasted, through the...
and speaking of the gorge, so
Yeah.
unfortunately, at least at the time of this recording, there's ongoing ongoing construction at along Beaver Dam.
Yeah.
And this is in Littlefield. So actually, this is technically Arizona, right?
Yeah.
But the lane goes from 2 to 1.
Yeah.
And of course, there's traffic, and depending on the time of day,
Nightmare.
it can be rather significant. So the hack to drive around it. However, to destroy that hack, basically sometimes the police will actually say when you want to get back on the 15 freeway to kind of avoid the traffic, they're like, nah,
They won't let you.
like they're kind of like Newman from
Yeah.
you didn't say the magic word.
Yeah.
And so they force you around,
Yeah.
and then you're like, so
They
all
make
that
you
savings
take-
that you have from
yeah.
the traffic, it's all negated.
They make you take the old Highway 91. It's really annoying.
Yeah, very.
But yeah, so that's Santa Clara. Really, really cute city. I mean, the one thing I will say about Santa Clara, it's so small, right, that there's usually not that much inventory, right? There's not much to look at if you're dead set on Santa Clara.
Yeah, again, not a lot of new construction, right? I mean, they have some,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just not a ton.
Yeah. Okay, then we're not talking about St. George because we're talking about the areas outside of St. George, but according to Niche.com, it's the number 3 best place to live in Washington County. And then next we're going to Ivins. So Ivins is just above Santa Clara.
Yeah, and similarly speaking, very different feel than St. George as
Yes,
well. And different
for
feel
sure.
from Santa Clara for that
Yeah,
matter, too. Like, while Santa Clara's like very green, Ivins, I don't get that feel at
No.
all. Like, it's very different.
Yeah.
They kind of embrace the high desert kind of
Yes.
thing going, the red rocks and stuff. They're all in.
Yes. Well, it's definitely famous for what they call the Red Mountain, right?
Yes.
And then you have like the Tuacan Center for the Arts. You can see it's a natural amphitheater. So you can see this is kind of like the landscape that you're seeing if you're in Ivins. All these beautiful red rocks, right?
It's amazing. Like it's kind of honestly it's so surreal.
Yeah.
And this is the Red Mountain as opposed to the mountain from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. Sean and his quirky humor. I don't know if I find it very humorous.
I find myself funny.
But I'm married to Sean, so
That works out well.
it does work out well.
If you didn't find me funny, that would be a problem.
So there's a famous community in here called Entrada, and actually Entrada is in parts of Ivins, Santa Clara, and St. George. But you can get, not only can you get views of the Red Mountain, but then you get views of Snow Canyon State Park. It's just so phenomenal. And then there's also a famous community in here, Kayenta, which is kind of around like an arts village. So that's a really cool little community here. And then Sean, do you want to talk about Kayenta and then like the difference between Kayenta and Entrada, which are kind of like the most famous?
The most notable.
Yeah, people know Kayenta, they know Entrada, right?
Yeah, so Kayenta is amazing, right? Like they're very different from each other. So they're both highly desired communities, but offer very different things. So Kayenta has no golf course. They are not gated. They have pretty good sized lots. Like the homes are kind of separated by a decent amount of land. And there's very little development on these lots. So basically, I believe that you can only develop on about 30% of your land. And it's mostly one story, and it kind of blends into the landscape. So you don't even know there's as many homes as there are. And they tend to have incredible views of the Red Mountain. And so it's just, some of these homes have just absolutely breathtaking views. I mean, just blow your mind. Like, I would stack that up against an ocean view any day. It's that incredible, right? But so that's kind of Kayenta for you. On the completely different end of the spectrum is Entrada, which is gated, much newer homes, like to brand new. And it's also, they have a golf course, like that they actually recently did a $7 million renovation to, which is obviously a rather significant renovation to the golf course. So they're just very different kind of vibes, but very desirable in their own right.
Yeah. And then, so number 5 on this list, because number 4 was Ivins, number 5 is Hurricane. And so what's interesting about this whole area, so we've got like St. George, Washington, Santa Clara, Ivins, these all bleed together, right? Like there's no really open space in between. But then...
Yeah, they can have different vibes. It's just that it's kind of like, it kind of goes from St. George, let's say, to Santa Clara to Ivins, right? So there's it kind of just runs together from that perspective.
Yeah, there's like commercial and homes like all along it, right?
Yeah, so with Hurricane, it's a little bit farther out.
Yeah.
Again, it's not out in the boondocks or anything like that, but it is, like when we joke about the whole everything's 15 minutes away from city center, Hurricane is about a good 30 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit farther out.
Yeah, and definitely, so when you're traveling down to get into Hurricane, there's a lot of open space right here. So it definitely has the feeling of being set off on its own, right? And I think, that's a big reason why people like it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is kind of off on its own. It's more isolated.
And it's closer to Zion.
So you got like Hurricane, and then you get Laverkin, Virgin, and you're getting out into Springdale, which is like the seat of Zion right here. Yeah, and Hurricane, it has everything you need there, right? Like it's shopping corridor along State Street.
Yeah.
It's not as robust like Sean said, but yeah, it has everything you need.
Yeah, it has like Lynn's Market, which is, again, a major grocery store or like a supermarket. It's got, Ace Hardware. It's got Walmart. It's got, again, it's got your typical normal stuff. It's just that obviously it's just not nearly as robust as the shopping corridor, the retail corridor in the St. George/Washington areas.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Hurricane too is that when you come out here, it's hard to find a home that doesn't have like an RV garage because obviously, people that live out in Hurricane, they are there because of the spectacular outdoors of southern Utah, right?
Yeah, in fact, you have two major reservoirs here too.
Yeah, so Sand Hollow State Park. This is where they do the Ironman, but obviously there's tons
nice
of stuff.
and warm too. That water.
Well, the water is freezing. Like it's really only, in my opinion, I will only go in it if it's like 110 outside because that water is cold.
It's like snow melt type stuff. And then obviously like not as notable is Quail Creek, which is also another reservoir.
Yeah.
Good sized reservoir in and of itself. It's just not as popular.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things to be aware of that it's again. We actually like Quail Creek more just because it isn't as busy, so it's just one of those things where a little hack as far as that goes.
Yeah, but so that's Hurricane. Definitely, a lot of like resorts out here, a lot of
golf courses,
vacation homes. I mean,
nightly rentals. So, and that's something that, we should actually talk about that. So a lot of people think, okay, they assume that if you're in Utah, that your home, your land, you can control whatever you want. So there's a couple issues with that. One, a lot of these homes are in associations. So you got to be aware of that. If you don't want an association, got to reach out to us letting us know because a lot of these homes, especially the newer construction stuff, is located within an association. So we can certainly steer you to like a home that isn't in an association. That's really something that's important for you.
Yeah.
Secondly is that there are zoning restrictions and stuff. So the vast majority of Washington County does not allow for nightly rentals. Like I think the minimum is about 6 months, I think, for your typical rental kind of setup.
Yeah.
So for nightly rentals, there are some pockets within not just Hurricane, but within St. George and Washington and all that stuff that do allow for it. But again, it's very specific small pockets that allow for nightly rentals. So again, if that's something that you're interested in, you want to reach out to us so we can kind of point you to those type of properties too. And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of Utah, so as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
And remember, the team that we work with here in Utah has over 40 years of experience. We absolutely love our team. So call or text that number right now if you are thinking about moving here to St. George, Utah.